options. No mandatories. No rematch clauses. This is what the fans want.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Super 6 World Boxing Classic, the Super Middleweights.
The Super 6 tournament is very unique. It's unprecedented. 6 of the best fighters in the world are going to fight each other, and you can see who's the best fighter.
There's a group stage. Every fighter fights 3 fights in the group stage. They accumulate points.
2 points for winning, 1 point for a draw, and 0 points, of course, for losing.
There's a bonus point there to be had for the stoppage, and I'm going to be swinging away.
After the group stage, we add up the points. The bottom 2 are eliminated. The top 4 move on to the semifinals. I think it's the first time that you have 6 fighters of this caliber all agreeing to stand in and fight each other.
I've decided to go into this tournament because of the level of opposition.
Everybody has the talent, the skill, the will.
They're all top fighters, and this is what I've been waiting for my whole career.
Everybody who's anybody's in there.
We've got Kessler, we've got the 2 young Americans coming through, Durrell and Ward. You've got Jermaine Taylor, Arthur Abraham coming up for middleweight.
The super middleweight tournament is so important that I gave up my middleweight title just for a chance to participate.
4 of them undefeated, 3 world champions, gold medal winners, top contenders, all agreeing to fight each other in this tournament. I think it could change boxing.
It's a big thing. In Europe and Germany, people are just talking about the boxing. They are talking about this tournament.
You can make a decent argument that any of them can win.
I'm still undefeated, I'm still world champion, so I'm coming into this tournament very, very confident.
I have a plan for Froch, I have a plan for Taylor, I have a plan for Ward. I don't care who you are. When you fight me, you're going to have to do battle. Of course I'm going to bring it, just like I always do. I'm going to bring it.
I'll bet you anything, I will win.
I want to show everybody that I'm the man. I will be in the final.
If you can say that you've beaten 4 of these 6 guys, your resume is going to be huge.
This will leave the fans with no questions to ask after this tournament.
He's going to be on a pedestal. He's going to be well recognized throughout the sport and the world.
There will be no easy fights. Beating the best will make me #1.
This tournament's going to bring the best out of me.
You can run, you can hide. Be the best man win.
Showtime Super 6 World Boxing Classic, the Super Middleweights, coming October 17th.
I got to tell you, an idea whose time has finally come. 2 words, Steve: intrigue and appeal. Boxing fans see the best fight the best in a tournament format they've never seen before.
Nick, watching that promo, I want it to start. Can it start tomorrow? But no, there's never been anything like this in boxing history. In the 50s, there was a welterweight tournament. In the 60s, Jimmy Ellis won a heavyweight tournament. Since then, Mike Tyson's won a tournament. Bernard Hopkins won a middleweight tournament. Never anything like this modified round-robin style. The strength of the tournament is the lineup. You have 2 current super middleweight champions, 2 former middleweight champions, and the 2 Andres, who were both Olympic gold medalists, undefeated and ready to move up. So the beauty of it, Nick, is there are 15 potential matchups, not one bad one among them. Every fight, we're going to be dying to see.
I'm with you. And also what I like, Antonio Tarver, is this is not a quick knockout tournament. Each guy gets 3 fights. The points we talked about, they get points for wins, for draws, for stoppages. From a fighter's perspective, what do you think?
Well, the point system definitely throws a monkey wrench in it, because just winning may not be good enough. You have to go out and knock someone out, because you accumulate more points that way. So that's a little added pressure, and maybe one of these guys might want to do something that they're not normally accustomed to doing, and it could cost them.
And a loss doesn't eliminate you, which is nice. Huh?
And that's great, because in boxing, a loss usually sets you back.
Okay, action begins. The Super 6 Super Middleweight Tournament, October 17th, with a doubleheader on Showtime. Arthur Abraham faces Jermaine Taylor in Germany, and then from England, it's Carl Froch against Andre Durrell. The first stage continues November 21st in Denmark, when Mikkel Kessler meets Andre Ward. 6 of the finest super middleweights begin to define who's the best in the world here on Showtime. Meanwhile, more tragic news for our sport last week, when former world champion Vernon Forrest was murdered. He's a former champion, a former U.S. Olympian, and a quality person. Let's go back up to the ring for the traditional 10 count to honor him.
Ladies and gentlemen, last week the boxing community suffered another tragic loss. Vernon Forrest, a 1992 Olympian and 3-time world champion, was murdered in a senseless act of violence on Saturday night. Vernon was known as much for his work with underprivileged children and mentally challenged adults, as he was for his success in the ring, his love of boxing, and his $1 million smile. His passing leaves a void in the hearts of his many friends, his family, his promoter, Gary Shaw Productions, and the boxing community around the world. At this time, we ask that you please rise and observe a moment of silence as we toll a 10 count for Vernon, the Viper, Forrest. May he rest in peace.
Antonio, you trained with Vernon Forrest. How will you personally remember him?
Well, as a stablemate, it was a pleasure getting to know Vernon. Today, my heart is heavy, as I'm sure everyone that had the opportunity to know and love Vernon Forrest. He was a big man in and outside the ring, a champion. And for his works, his charity work that he did with Destiny Child in Atlanta was as big as anything I've ever witnessed. And it would be my hope that his vision for Destiny Child live on in his passing.
A life cut tragically short. Vernon Forrest, dead at 38, leaves a legacy as a boxer and maybe more importantly, as a man. Meanwhile, ShoBox is coming to you tonight from Pechanga Resort and Casino in Temecula, California. Our main event is next, and the crowd is ready to watch the exciting Marvin Quintero take on Tyrone Harris in a critical fight for both. And so, Steve Farhood, here we are, as usual, ringside and ready for a main event. So is this crowd, as we can hear. Contrast of styles. Quintero breaks you down with pressure. Harris is very much the boxer. Keys to success for both guys.
Well, Nick, yesterday at our fighter meetings, Romulo Cararte, the trainer of Marvin Quintero, told us he wants distance. He wants his guy to box. I don't get that at all. Quintero has to put on pressure because Harris doesn't handle pressure well, and Harris doesn't fight on the inside well. The other side of the coin, Nick, Harris is a good counterpuncher. Quintero throws wide shots. He jumps in. If Harris can counterpunch precisely, he'll establish something early in the fight which will allow him to stay around till the end of the fight.
Now let me go to my southpaw side and southpaw partner, Antonio Tarver. You gave guys nightmares, the right-handers, when you fought them as a lefty, of course, all throughout your still active career. But what happens now? It's Harris Quintero, lefty against lefty. Tell us about that.
Well, I'll tell you, fighting a right-hander from a southpaw stance, you have many advantages. The way you move away from his power. But tonight, all the advantages are out the window. It's southpaw against southpaw, and you're lined up directly in front of this guy's power with both straight left hands coming straight down the pipe.
We're going to be watching that. That's the setup story. It's our main event coming up next here on Showtime. And we'll start talking specifics about Marvin Quintero, 22-year-old, 5-year pro from Mexico, who's won a dozen straight since his only loss 4 years ago. He first came to ShoBox this past January against former prospect Nick Casale. And when he faced Casale in January, it was instant action. Each guy landed shots and rocked the other. Quintero, though, was relentless. He didn't let Casale breathe, forced the action, outgunned his opponent in a 3-round war that saw Casale quit on his stool. Then in May, Quintero was back on ShoBox against Wes Ferguson. Quintero's corner implored him to fight intelligently, but the Mexican wanted to make it a brawl and did. He was content to take punches to land his own, and he connected on enough quality shots to neutralize a slick boxer and win a unanimous decision. Marvin Quintero now makes his third ShoBox appearance. 16-1, 12 KOs. Take us behind the numbers, Steve.
Well, lefty versus lefty, as Antonio Tarver mentioned. Quintero's faced only 2 southpaws, but no matter. In the gym, his chief sparring partner is ShoBox alum Antonio DeMarco, who's a lefty. Drastic shift. The records of some of Quintero's opponents immediately before his debut on ShoBox: 4-16-2, 9-20-1, and 1-11. The records since 18-3-1, 23-1, and tonight 23-5. An inexplicable loss. 4 years ago, Quintero was dropped and stopped in one round by someone named Balam Castellanos, a fighter who's gone 1-3 since. Go figure.
Tyrone Harris was born and raised in Lansing, Michigan, where he started boxing at 8. He won the National Golden Gloves in 2000 and turned pro 5 years ago as well. He blew through early opponents, piled up an unbeaten record and impressive KO percentage in his first 14 fights. But then Harris stepped up for the first time 3.5 years ago and was knocked out on ShoBox. He's had mixed success since then. A loss to aging former champion Stevie Johnston, a second loss on ShoBox to Josecito Lopez, a career best stoppage of Damian Fuller 2 fights ago, and a TKO loss in May to then unbeaten contender Urbano Antian. 28-year-old Tyrone Harris is a southpaw boxer puncher, 23-5, 15 KOs. What's behind the numbers, Steve?
Well, going